Get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to a viewer game, and this is actually one of Cirque's own. This is from Darvel, and there's actually two circlings in this match because Body Pen from Cirque 4 is on the enemy team in a Carnarvon. Circlings everywhere. Now, the reason I chose this, apart from it is gonna be an interesting match, or at least I hope it will be an interesting match to watch, is that Darvel's kind of previously featured in a replay. It wasn't a game that we saw from his point of view, but there was a game from another circling where he was platooned up with Darvel, and Darvel died very early on in that particular match. And I've always felt a bit bad because we had this thing going on the stream for a while that we'd all, you know, if something went wrong, it would all be like hashtag blame Darvel. So instead, this match, I mean, I already know what the title's going to be. It's going to be hashtag praise Darvel, because Darvel actually does a pretty good job in this one. I just felt I wanted to redress the balance and, you know, show that we love you really, Darvel. We do, we do. So he's in the E-100, which is one of the German tier 10 heavies, if you didn't know. I think most people probably do by this point. And he is, of course, using the top gun. I say, of course, you occasionally see E-100s that don't have the top gun, but he does. Another thing to note is that he is mostly running with armor piercing. He has got 5 heat shells, and when you see an E-100 on the battlefield, if it's on the enemy team, it's usually a good bet that it's going to be firing a decent amount of heat at you, if not all heat. It's a common sight, and that's because these 150 centimeter shells, 150 centimeter, 150 millimeter, 15 centimeter. Yeah, I do that sometimes. 15 centimeter shells. Yep. Or we could just stick with 150 centimeter. I don't know who wouldn't want a 150 centimeter gun. They only have 235 pen. We can very quickly check. Yes, 235 average pen, which is by far the worst of any tier 10 heavy. Oh, hello Body Pen. Sorry, Body Pen. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's really understandable why people fire a lot of premium credits, premium shells with this thing, because it's a tier 10. You're maybe not that bothered about making credits with your tier 10s. That's not really what tier 10s are for, although it's possible, definitely possible if you have a premium account, a lot harder if you don't, but still possible. But a lot of people, they make their credits elsewhere, and then they run their tier 10s as their pimp machines, because, you know, it's the pinnacle, it's the top of the tree. So it's understandable that you're not going to care about credits that much. And when Wargaming takes the decision, well, we're going to give its top gun, in air quotes, terrible penetration, but we're going to have it have heat shells with much better pen, then it's maybe not surprising that a lot of people just use the heat shells. So yeah. Anyway, he's found some friends, including an IS-7, but the IS-7 is rather helpfully sitting side on. This does have a really long reload, and the mouse has a pretty bad reload as well, but this is worse with this big gun. I'm actually slowly working my way towards this tank, so I'm going to experiment a bit between the various guns, because I already know the 128, which the E-100 can use, which is the only choice you get on the mouse. That was awfully bold for a T-32, but maybe the T-32 knows Darvel's got a long reload. I think most people know that this thing is not the quickest firing. So even though he's got a really weak hull, he was not going to shoot at an angled E-100. He wanted to try and get to where he could shoot. But on the other hand, he didn't try and dodge out the way there. He just sat there and took that shell to the face. And that was a high roll. That was 850, so that's pretty nice. This IS-7 is no longer in the picture. He just got RT'd. And by the way, there are 3 RT per team, including some tier 10s. Now, if you've got backup, and it's kind of unlucky that that missed, but T-32 is not that much to worry about. If you're in the situation the T-32 is, yeah, okay, and if you've got backup, then trying to negate the angle of somebody's armor, especially if it's a big, slow, hefty machine like the E-100, that's not a terrible idea. But if you're on your own, yeah, I just don't think that guy was. It's not the worst idea in the world, but it was terribly implemented, let's put it that way. Finishes off the IS-3. 3,000 damage, over 3,000 damage, all with AP. This thing hits like a tank destroyer. I think that's the unique appeal of the E-100. The mobility is actually not bad either. but it's that 750 alpha. Bam! And that was a low roll for a change, but still, he's now up to 4,000 damage. He's also taken a big hit from the T92. But considering it's a T92, he probably got off quite lightly. That was only 600 damage. Now, he is not at all artillery safe where he is right now. So, really, he needs to get himself to where he is artillery safe. The rest of the minimap's looking a bit mixed. We know there's a 1390 on the field, and there's nothing between him and the artillery. Oh, and another hit from artillery, but again, 343. That's quite low. He is now down to 1,000 hit points, however. So he's got to be a bit more careful from this time onwards. It's almost that, looking at the... I mean, the Torty could be a big threat. The M103 maybe. If they are not playing particularly smart, then none of the remaining enemy tanks are particularly troublesome, apart from maybe the Torty because of its rate of fire. But it's the fact that they can then spot for artillery, and artillery is by far the biggest threat at this point. They've got the biggest guns, and they can, you know, reach down from all the way across the map and just nail you. And yeah, fortunately, at least this is a map where there is a bunch of cover in the middle. There is a lot of artillery safe places to be. So at this point, it's being smart. So the 1390 is going for artillery. The Torty is low health. He's now down to a T34 for an ally, so they are actually outnumbered at this point. It's not necessarily insurmountable, but the T34, although it's got a good gun, has got pretty terrible hull armour in this particular matchup. So, we've got to find the enemies. There's the Torty, and the T34 takes him out, which is pretty useful. If the Torty had been on high health, that could have been pretty nasty. We're down to one friendly artillery. The T92 just took out the GW Tiger P, so there is still a bit of artillery support, but we're not going to count on it. Oh, there's the Pershing, and oh, this is bad. This is not what you want in this kind of tank, is you've got enemies on multiple sides. And the FV207 just hit him for 90. I'm going to theorise maybe the 207 didn't have his top gun. Pershing bounces on the side armour, which is quite lucky. Pershing doesn't have that much penetration though, so it's not that he's a big threat with his gun especially, although if he starts shooting premium ammo, which would not be a terribly stupid thing to do in this situation when you're confronted with this set of circumstances, he might be able to pen Darvel fairly easily. But that there is the threat, is artillery. 500 hit points. He is now a one-shot for the T92 easily, for the M43, the M53-55. If the 207 really does have the stock gun, then I don't know. It's probably unlikely to one-shot him, but on the other hand, maybe he has got the top gun, and that 90 hit damage was just because this thing is... The FV, and I should say that I know this from personal experience, because I do, of course, have an FV in my garage. Yes, it has got absolutely awful splash. I mean, it's a 152mm gun, and go and look at the splash that the KV2 has. That's the same amount of splash that the FV207 has with its HE, pretty much. I think there's like 0.01 difference between them. So when you're playing the FV, you actually have to hit stuff. You can't splash stuff at all. So I'm not quite sure. He might just be taking stock. He might be considering his options. He might be seeing what the Pershing does. But if I had to guess what's going through Darvel's mind right now, I would say he's actually maybe more thinking the T-34 can keep the Pershing's attention and keep him boxed in, and that artillery is actually the bigger threat right now. So why don't we go take out artillery? And oh yes, there we go, he's spotted one, he's spotted two. So aim quite carefully. The M53 fires and misses, which is a bit of a snapshot. He's jinking back and forth a bit. We don't know where the T92 is in terms of reload. And he stops to aim. Oh, so lucky that missed. And again, the FV fires, splashes for 43 damage. Yeah, you absolutely have to have a direct hit with the FV, otherwise you're not going to do anything. So that's 2 out of 3 artilleries down. There's the Pershing to take care of, who I mean, let's be clear, the Pershing could still be a threat if he plays smart, but we've taken out the biggest threat in terms of the tier 10 and the tier 9 artillery, and if we can take out that tier 8 artillery as well, then hey, Pascucci's in a tier 10 heavy. That's always nice. Pascucci's in it. Any tank is nice, but in a German tier 10 heavy, that's extra nice. I think it's a bit easier in an E-100 because the mouse, of course, is not the fastest tank. Now, our Batchat RT he's actually contributing here. He could just kind of cram himself in a back corner somewhere and try and stay out the action. But no, he's actually, I mean, we're down to 4.5 minutes, so he's going to sit on the cap. And this will hopefully bring out that Pershing. Of course, the T-34 actually needs to be somewhere where he can deal with it. Darvel clearly has decided he wants that Pascucci's medal, so he's going to go after the enemy artillery. And that's not necessarily a terrible idea, because he's probably faster than the T-34, to be honest. This is the kind of situation where you've got your fastest tank hunting down artillery, ideally, and it so happens that the fastest tank is a tier 10 heavy. So, yeah, although if I was that enemy Batchat, I mean, that thing's pretty fast. Maybe I'd have gone hunting down the NERT in my Batchat. And there we go, FV down. The T-34's gone to sit on the cap as well. Darvel can now angle back towards the cap, and it's just a matter of taking out the Pershing. Oh, and there he is. He actually circled all the way around, maybe going to look for that Batchat. And he does take out the Batchat, but the fact that the Batchat was there to absorb a shell means the T-34 then gets a free shot. Although he does say that he's got a broken gun, unfortunately. Now the Pershing is down to 200 hit points. The T-34 can afford to take a hit. He can afford to sit there and aim carefully. So, yeah, there we go. He gets the last kill. No Radley Walters, alas, but still 5,889 damage on the clock, a Pascucci's medal, and 7 kills. He also got a high caliber, a steel wall, and of course a top gun out of that. So that was a pretty good result, you know. Hashtag praise Darvel. Now, unsurprisingly, he was at the very top of his team. He got the best score, he got the best damage, and that T-34 pretty much kicked ass as well. He had over 4,000 damage with elite XP. And he's a Kasner player, and I think Kasner have got a fairly good reputation, so that guy definitely punched above his weight considering the tank he was in. And that just goes to show you, in the right hands, what a T-34 can do. But I think we've also seen, in the right hands, what an E-100 could do. There were some pretty bad players on the team as well. I mean, we get to halfway down the team list, T-34 with 600 damage, IS-4 100 damage, and then it just kind of really drops off, including a Jagdtiger with a 0 damage. So yeah, on the enemy team, the M103 did nearly 5k, and again a bit of a drop off. Maybe that FV, I mean, I'm just looking at it, he got nearly 2,500 damage, which is about, you know, what I would expect to get in a decent game in my FV. So maybe his shots were just really unlucky with Darvel. Maybe Darvel got quite lucky with artillery there, because there were a couple of times where he placed himself in positions that were not artillery safe at all. And I maybe would not have done the same. But it kind of worked out in the end. I think the most luck he had in that battle was with the enemy artillery not hitting him for massive amounts of damage. He still did lose some health to them, but it could have been a lot worse. Otherwise, I think he played it fairly smart. And between him and that T-34, they really did wrap that up fairly nicely. So yeah, there we go. A nice E-100 game. And because he didn't fire heat, even though he doesn't have a premium account, he still walked away with 25,000 credits profit in a tier 10 and nearly 3,000 XP, which, you know, this was obviously his daily, so that's pretty nice as well. So yeah, GG Darvel, that was nicely done, and I hope this somewhat, I know it's all jokey, the blame Darvel stuff, but you know, we like you really, Darvel, we do. So, if you enjoyed this replay, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.